13 things people learn. Too late in life. Nietzsche's warning. What if I told you that a philosopher who died over 120 years ago predicted exactly why you're struggling with life right now? What if he left us 13 brutal truths that most people only discover when it's too late to change anything? Friedrich Nietzsche didn't just predict the modern crisis of meaning, he lived through it. And today, I'm going to share his 13 most powerful warnings about life. Warnings that could save you decades of regret. But here's the thing, these aren't feel-good platitudes. These are hard truths that will challenge everything. You think you know about success, happiness, and what it means to live well. So if you're ready to confront some uncomfortable realities about your life, stick around. And if this resonates with you, smash that like button and subscribe for more life-changing philosophy. I've spent years studying Nietzsche's work, and I can tell you that these insights have personally transformed how I approach every major decision in my life. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Nietzsche is considered one of the most influential thinkers of all time. Lesson 1. You are your own worst enemy. Imagine you had an enemy who followed you everywhere, criticizing every decision, undermining your confidence, and convincing you that you're not good enough. You do everything to get rid of this person, right? Well, Nietzsche has news for you. That enemy is you. Nietzsche wrote, "You have your way. I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, and the only way, it does not exist." Yet most of us spend our entire lives believing there's one right way to live, and we're constantly failing to meet that standard. Think about your last major decision. Did you spend more time worrying about what others would think than what you actually wanted? Did you second-guess yourself into paralysis? That's your internal enemy at work. Nietzsche warned that the greatest tragedy isn't external failure. It's internal self-sabotage. Most people learn this too late. After years of letting their inner critic dictate their choices, here's what you can do today. Write down 3 decisions you've been putting off because of self-doubt. Now ask yourself, what would you choose if you knew you couldn't fail? That's your authentic voice speaking. Lesson 2. Comfort is the enemy of growth. There's a reason why your biggest regrets aren't about the risks. They're about the risks you didn't take. Nietzsche understood something that most people learn. Too late, comfort is not your friend. Nietzsche famously said, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." But this isn't just about surviving trauma. It's about actively seeking discomfort to grow. Look around you right now. Are you in the same job, same relationship, same routine as last year? If so, you're not growing, you're decaying. Nietzsche called this the last man, someone who seeks only comfort and avoids all struggle. Nietzsche himself embodied this principle. Despite suffering from chronic illness and social isolation, he never stopped pushing intellectual boundaries. He could have chosen an easy academic life, but he chose the harder path of original thinking. The comfortable life you're protecting might be the very thing preventing you from becoming who you're meant to be. Most people realize this at 60, looking back with regret. Don't be one of them. This week, do one thing that scares you. Apply for that job, start that project, have that difficult conversation. Growth lives on the other side of discomfort. Lesson 3. Your values aren't really yours. Quick question. Do you know why you want what you want? Because according to Nietzsche, most of your desires aren't actually yours. They're inherited from people who died centuries ago. Nietzsche called this slave morality. The idea that we unconsciously adopt values from our culture, family, and society without ever questioning whether they serve us. Think about your definition of success. Is it money, status, a big house, marriage, kids? Now ask yourself, did you choose these goals, or did they choose you? How much of your life are you living according to someone else's script? Nietzsche argued that true freedom comes from creating your own values, not inheriting them. He called this master morality, the courage to define good and evil for yourself. I spent years chasing a career that looked successful on paper, but left me empty inside. It wasn't until I asked myself, what do I actually value, that I realized I was living someone else's dream. Most people spend their entire lives climbing someone else's ladder, only to discover at the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall. Don't let this be you. Pause this video and write down your 3 biggest life goals. Now ask, who first told you these things were important? Your parents? Society? Social media? The answers might surprise you. Lesson 4. Suffering is unavoidable, but meaninglessness is optional. Here's something no one tells you about adult life. It's going to hurt. A lot. But Nietzsche discovered something that changed everything. The difference between pain and suffering. Nietzsche wrote, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." This isn't pessimism. It's the key to a fulfilling life. Every day you'll face rejection, disappointment, loss, and failure. You can't avoid this, but you can choose whether these experiences break you or build you. Nietzsche himself suffered from debilitating headaches, loneliness, and mental anguish. Yet he used this suffering as fuel for his philosophy. He didn't pretend pain didn't exist. He transformed it into meaning. There's a crucial difference between unavoidable suffering and optional suffering. Losing someone you love? Unavoidable. Staying bitter about it for decades? Optional. When something painful happens, ask yourself, what can this teach me? Not why me, but what now? This single shift in perspective can transform your entire relationship with adversity. Most people spend their lives running from pain, only to discover in their later years that their greatest growth came from their greatest struggles. Don't waste decades avoiding the very experiences that could make you stronger. Lesson 5. Authenticity costs everything. What if I told you that the price of being yourself is losing almost everyone who thinks they know you? Nietzsche learned this the hard way, and it nearly destroyed him. Nietzsche wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe." When you start living authentically, you'll discover that most people prefer your mask to your face. Think about the last time you shared your true opinion about something controversial. How did people react? Did they embrace your honesty, or did they try to shut you down? That's the price of authenticity. Nietzsche lost friends, family approval, and professional respect because he refused to pretend. He could have played it safe, but he chose truth over comfort. It cost him everything and gave him immortality. Most people learn too late that they've spent their entire lives performing for an audience that doesn't even care about them. They discover this on their deathbed when it's too late to change. But here's what Nietzsche also discovered. When you stop pretending to be someone else, you attract people who love you for who you really are. Quality over quantity always. This week, try this. Express one authentic opinion that you've been hiding. Notice the reactions. Some people will leave your life, let them. Others will respect you more. Those are your people. Lesson 6. Resentment is poison. There's a poison that's killing your potential right now, and you're probably not even aware of it. Nietzsche called it resentment, and it's the reason why most people never reach their full potential. Resentment isn't just anger, it's deeper. It's the bitter envy that comes from comparing your life to others and finding yourself lacking. It's the secret hatred you feel toward people who have what you want. Social media has turned resentment into an epidemic. Every scroll through Instagram or LinkedIn feeds this poison. Why does she have that job? Why is he so successful? Why do they look so happy? Nietzsche understood that resentment isn't really about other people. It's about your own feelings of powerlessness. Instead of creating the life you want, you waste energy hating others for having it. I spent years secretly resenting successful people in my field. I told myself they were lucky, connected, or fake. The truth? I was afraid to risk failure. So I made their success about everything except my own choices. Nietzsche taught that the opposite of resentment is what he called amor fati, love of fate. Instead of hating others' success, use it as proof that success is possible. Next time you feel that familiar sting of envy, ask yourself, what is this person's success teaching me about what's possible? And transform poison into fuel. Lesson 7. Most people are living someone else's dream. Stop for a moment and look at your life. Your job, your relationships, your goals, how much of this is actually yours? According to Nietzsche, most people are sleepwalking through someone else's dream. Nietzsche wrote about the herd mentality, the unconscious tendency to follow the crowd instead of forging your own path. He saw this as the death of individual potential. Think about it. Why do you work the hours you work? Why do you live where you live? Why do you want the things you want? How many of these choices did you make consciously versus unconsciously following what everyone else does? Nietzsche called the process of breaking free from the herd becoming who you are. It's not about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. I know someone who spent 15 years as a lawyer because their parents expected it. They were successful, miserable, and completely disconnected from their authentic self. It took a breakdown to wake them up. Most people realize they've been living someone else's life in their 40s or 50s. They look back and think, I never chose this. But by then, they feel trapped by mortgages, responsibilities, and time. Don't wait for a midlife crisis to wake you up. Ask yourself right now, if you could design your life from scratch, what would it look like? That's your authentic path calling. Lesson 8, weakness disguised as virtue. What if I told you that some of your greatest virtues are actually your greatest weaknesses? Nietzsche identified something he called slave morality. And it's probably running your life right now. Nietzsche argued that society often promotes weakness as virtue. Being passive becomes humility. Avoiding conflict becomes peace-loving. Not pursuing your dreams becomes being realistic. How many times have you avoided speaking up in a meeting because you're not confrontational? How often have you settled for less because you're grateful for what you have? These might not be virtues, they might be fear. True virtue, according to Nietzsche, requires strength. Real compassion means being willing to have difficult conversations. Real love means setting boundaries. Real success means risking failure. I used to think I was easygoing because I never argued with anyone. The truth? I was terrified of conflict. I was letting people walk all over me and calling it a virtue. Most people spend their lives proud of their virtues without realizing they're just sophisticated forms of cowardice. They discover this too late. When they look back and see all the opportunities they missed, ask yourself, what virtue in your life might actually be weakness in disguise? What would change if you approached it with more courage? Lesson 9, the danger of living for others. Here's a question that might keep you up tonight. When was the last time you made a decision based purely on what you wanted, not what others expected? If you can't remember, Nietzsche would say you're in danger. Nietzsche wrote, "The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. We're trained from birth to seek approval instead of truth." Think about your last major decision. Did you choose your career to make your parents proud? Your relationship to avoid being alone? Your lifestyle to impress others? You're not living, you're performing. Living for others creates a trap. The more you sacrifice your authentic self for approval, the less worthy of that approval you become. People respect authenticity, not performance. Nietzsche himself faced this choice. He could have stayed in his comfortable academic position, teaching acceptable ideas to get along. Instead, he chose to think dangerous thoughts and speak uncomfortable truths. When you live for others, you lose yourself. And ironically, the people you're trying to please often lose respect for you. They sense the inauthenticity, even if they can't name it. Most people realize in their later years that they spent their entire lives seeking approval from people whose opinions didn't really matter. Don't be one of them. This week, make one decision purely for yourself. Notice how it feels. Notice the resistance. That's your authentic self fighting to be heard. Lesson 10, strength comes from struggle. Every gym has a sign. No pain, no gain. But Nietzsche discovered this applies to far more than muscles. It applies to your character, your relationships, and your entire life. Nietzsche wrote, "The discipline of suffering, of great suffering. Do you not know that only this discipline has created all enhancements of man so far? This isn't about seeking pain, it's about not running from it. We live in a culture that promises easy solutions. Lose weight without exercise. Get rich without work. Find love without vulnerability. But Nietzsche understood that anything worth having requires struggle. Your muscles grow when they're stressed and broken down. Your character works the same way. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to become stronger, if you don't run from it. The most confident people I know aren't those who've never failed. They're those who've failed the most and learned from it. They've built their strength through struggle. Most people spend their lives avoiding difficulty, only to discover that their greatest regrets aren't about the hard things they did. They're about the hard things they avoided. Next time you face a challenge, ask yourself, how will overcoming this make me stronger? Instead of, how can I avoid this? You'll find solutions you never imagined. Lesson 11. Create your own meaning. What if I told you that the meaning you've been searching for your entire life doesn't exist? What if meaning isn't something you find? It's something you create. This is perhaps Nietzsche's most important insight. Nietzsche proclaimed God is dead, meaning the traditional sources of meaning and morality were no longer credible. But instead of despair, he saw this as liberation. You get to create your own meaning. We live in an age of unprecedented freedom. Yet depression and anxiety are at all-time highs. Why? Because we're waiting for someone else to tell us what our life should mean. Nietzsche called this the eternal recurrence. The idea that you should live as if you'd have to repeat every day forever. Would you choose the same actions, the same relationships, the same priorities? I spent years waiting for my calling to reveal itself. I thought meaning would come from outside, a sign, a voice, a clear path. But Nietzsche taught me that meaning comes from the inside, from the choices you make and the values you create. Don't wait for permission to live meaningfully. Don't wait for the right moment or the perfect opportunity. Create meaning through action, commitment, and courage. What would you do if you knew you'd have to live this exact life forever? That's your authentic path. That's your meaning. Lesson 12. Most people fear their own power. What scares you more, failure or success? If you're honest, it's probably success. And according to Nietzsche, this fear of your own power is what keeps most people small. Nietzsche wrote about will to power, not power over others, but power over yourself. The ability to create, to choose, to become who you're meant to be. But this terrifies most people. Success means responsibility. It means you can't blame others for your problems. It means you might have to leave comfortable mediocrity behind. It means people will expect more from you. Think about it. How many times have you been close to a breakthrough and then found a way to sabotage it? How many opportunities have you talked yourself out of? That's not bad luck. That's fear of your own power. Nietzsche believed that humans are meant to be creators, not just consumers. But creating requires owning your power, and that's uncomfortable. It's easier to stay small and complain. Most people realize in their final years that they were capable of far more than they ever attempted. They played small not because they had to, but because they chose to. What would you attempt if you knew you had the power to succeed? Stop asking, can I? And start asking, will I? The power was always there. You just have to claim it. Lesson 13. Death gives life meaning. Here's the final lesson, and it's the most important. You're going to die. This isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to wake you up. Because according to Nietzsche, death isn't the opposite of life. It's what makes life meaningful. Nietzsche wrote, "The thought of death is the only check we have against the reckless pursuit of the trivial. When you truly accept your mortality, everything changes. You have roughly 30,000 days on this planet. How many have you already used? How many are you willing to waste on things that don't matter? On people who don't care? On dreams you're too scared to pursue? Death is the ultimate teacher. It shows you what's truly important by showing you what's temporary. Your status, your possessions, your reputation, none of it survives. But your impact, your love, your courage, these echo through eternity. Imagine you had 1 year left to live. What would you do differently? Who would you call? What would you create? What would you stop doing? These answers reveal your true priorities. Most people learn these lessons too late. When they're facing their final days with regret, don't be one of them. Use the awareness of death not to become morbid, but to become alive. So there you have it, 13 brutal truths that Nietzsche discovered and most people learn too late. Let me leave you with this. Knowing these truths isn't enough. You have to act on them. You now have a choice. You can close this video, go back to your comfortable life, and pretend these insights don't apply to you. Or you can accept Nietzsche's challenge and start living authentically, courageously, and meaningfully. I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me which of these 13 lessons hit you the hardest. Which one are you going to act on first? Your commitment in the comments makes it real. If this video changed your perspective, imagine what else you could learn. I make videos like this every week, diving deep into philosophy that actually matters for your life. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss them. Remember, Nietzsche didn't just think about these ideas, he lived them. He chose the difficult path of authentic living over the easy path of conformity. He paid the price, but he also gained immortality. Your life is your philosophy. Make it count! Like this video if it made you think. Share it with someone who needs to hear these truths. And remember, the life you're living right now is the only one you get. Don't waste it living someone else's dream.